Good morning, buenos dias.
Good morning.
My name is Erin McKinney. My pronouns are she, her. I have the joy of serving on your board of trustees. It's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. If you're here for the first time, thank you for joining us. We look forward to getting to know you. We invite everyone present in the sanctuary today to join our in-person community time immediately following the service. We lift up transformation as one of our core values. This calls us to adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. I warmly invite everyone to attend Reimagining Justice, a panel discussion hosted by our Restorative Justice team this coming Saturday, March 1st, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at our community center. Visit this week's e-beacon for more information. And now John Boblick has an announcement about Unity Temple's auction.
Good morning. My name is John Boblick, and my wife and I have been members of this congregation for over 18 years. We've been so happy with being a part of this community. One of the things we've appreciated is that the congregation kind of challenges us to get involved, even if it means moving out of our comfort zone, like coming up to the pulpit to make an announcement. But I'm here to remind you of our annual silent auction that will be starting next week. Actually, the bidding will start on March the 2nd. This past month, we've been getting donations for auction items, and we've got a large variety of things, from use of vacation homes, special dinners, events, baked goods. You can check it out on the Bid Beacon. You can preview the items this week. Bidding will start next Sunday on March the 2nd, and it'll close 2 weeks later. This is a great way to get involved. It's a win-win-win. I mean, it's a great fundraiser, an important fundraiser for the church. Hopefully you get the bid item you want and enjoy that. And then 3, often you meet new people in the congregation that you haven't met before through this event. So get involved, be generous, and bid often. Oh, if you have questions, we have an auction table in the during coffee hour to visit. Thank you.
We are so glad that you're here with us today. We now invite you to take a moment and greet one another.
Good morning.
Great job, Don.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. They came here when she was pregnant, and I got to
In the front?
yeah, with a little red hair baby. I'm Reverend Emily Gage. My pronouns are she, her. Our chalice later today is Abby. Abby is 8 years old and is having a winter sports weekend. Abby went ice skating Friday night, learned a little ice hockey yesterday, and is going skiing later today. Please join with me in the words of our chalice lighting. We are Unitarian Universalists. This is the church of the open minds, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of the planet Earth and each other.
Good morning. My name is Diana Coates. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of your worship associates. In these times, I need to find ways to practice peace. And so I was reading Pema Chodron's Practicing Peace, and she refers to a story about a peace march. When one group was coming back from the march, some pro-war people started to cut them off and blocking them. Everybody started screaming and yelling at each other, and she thought, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture. Clobbering people with your peace sign, that's not the way to exhibit peace. So I'm having to work with my frustration and my anger. And during this difficult time, how can I keep my heart awakened and live my values with compassion? How can I keep anger and bitterness from dominating? There's no easy answers, as we know. And there's the big and. Meditating daily in our Sangha. We have a great UU Sangha where we meditate rain or shine every day. And I'm connected to my support groups, and coming to service here all help me. And given the economy doesn't belong to the rich, but belongs to all of us, I am also focusing on putting my precious, and they are precious, dollars to work. I'm joining a national boycott February 28th to not shop at Amazon, Target, or Walmart, or any other big stores. Shop at the local stores if you must, or can, or will support them. Also, I'm getting information, and I'm sure there's many other groups, but Choose Democracy, very strong in this church. Indivisible has some great suggestions for action. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here. Come, let us worship together. We'll now sing number 34. And so rise in body and or spirit.
Please remain standing and join us in the words of our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
My name is Jay Cohen. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a member of the spiritual care team. We like to say that this is the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. And one of the ways we live that out is by sharing the joys and sorrows of our lives. If you'd ever like for one of your joys or sorrows to be shared from the pulpit, you can write it in the book outside the sanctuary before the service, or you can email us at spiritualcare@unitytemple.org. Also, if there's ever something on your heart or mind you'd like to discuss, the spiritual care team is here to listen. You can find us by the blue hearts on our name badge or email us at that same address, spiritualcare@unitytemple.org. This week we just have one item, it's a sorrow. We're very sad to report that long-term Unity Temple member Jordan Reifus passed away this week. Jordan was dedicated to service and beloved by so many in the Oak Park community. Information about arrangements are not yet available. For today, we hold Paula and Jordan's entire family in our hearts. We know that we hold other joys and sorrows in silence. If you would like to honor one of your joys or sorrows, we invite everybody to put a stone into one of the bowls of water around the sanctuary. The bowl represents the love that is large enough to hold all of our joys and sorrows. We'll do this in silence. Let us begin.
Our words of meditation come from Lisa Garcia Sampson. Let us unite our hearts and minds in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love, spirit that lives within us and between us and among us right now. Within this beloved community and in our work for collective liberation, may we continue to weave the web of trust and care to keep our bodies safe. May our bodies be the site of healing, joy, and freedom. May we refuse to let our spirits be depleted and hardened by the forces of hate. Instead, may we open ourselves to be nourished and transformed by the movement for justice, knowing that our collective story is not what we are fighting against, but what we are fighting for. For ours is the work of creation, ours is the work of inviting people into an irresistible movement, rooted in our belief that a new world is possible. And at the center of our work is love and joy and the spirit of abundance. These are the things we are fighting for, and these are the things we are fighting with. May we know deep in our bones that this is the call of our faith. Amen. Blessed be. Likes to come close when you're listening to a story, I invite you to come and sit down on the floor near me. I have a book today called One by Catherine Otoshi. Blue was a quiet color. He enjoyed looking up at the sky, floating on the waves, and on days he felt daring, splashing in rain puddles. Every once in a while, he wished he could be more sunny, like yellow, or bright like green, more regal like purple, or outgoing like orange. But overall, he liked being blue, except when he was with Red. Red was a hothead. He liked to pick on Blue. Red is a great color, he'd say. Red is hot, blue is not. Then Blue would feel bad about being blue. Sometimes yellow comforted Blue. Blue is a very nice color, she'd say. But yellow never said that in front of Red. She never said, stop picking on Blue. Green, purple, and orange thought blue was nice too, but they never told Red to stop either. Every time Red said something mean and no one spoke up, he got bigger and bigger and bigger. Soon Red grew so big that everyone was afraid of him. No one dared stop him. Red picked on all the colors. Then everyone felt a little blue. Until One came. He had a different shape with bold strokes and squared corners. He was funny. He made the other colors laugh. Red saw this and got very hot. Stop laughing, he told Yellow. Stop laughing, he told Green. Stop laughing, he told Purple and Orange. And they did. Red rolled up to One. Stop laughing, he told him. But One stood up straight like an arrow and said, no. Red was mad, but One wouldn't budge, so Red rolled away. One turned to the colors and said, if someone is mean and picks on me, I, for one, stand up and say no. Then Yellow felt brave and said, me too. Green agreed and said, me 3. Then Purple became 4 and Orange became 5. Blue saw the colors change. He wanted to count. Red grew red hot. He felt left out. He grew hotter and hotter and hotter. Red raced over to Blue and said what he always did. Red is hot. Blue is not. But this time, Blue stood up tall and became 6. Red can be really hot, he said, but Blue can be super cool. Red blew a fuse and tried to roll over Blue. But everyone took a stand and said, no. Seeing them standing tall made Red feel very, very, very small. Then Red turned even redder and began rolling away. Blue called out, "Can Red be hot and Blue be cool?" Red stopped in his tracks. "Red can count too," said one. Red rocked and rolled and turned into 7. "Everyone counts," they shouted. Then Red laughed and joined the fun. Sometimes it takes just one. The end. All right. I'm going to send you to Unity House.
Good morning, I'm Reverend Roger, and my pronouns are he, him. Each week, Unity Temple splits the offering evenly. One half supports the congregation and its mission and programs. This week, the other half benefits Race Conscious Dialogues, a local Oak Park organization working with white-bodied and white-presenting persons in the context of racial affinity space. Topics in their 4-session workshop include whiteness, socialization, social identity, dominant narratives, privilege, racism interruption, solidarity, systems of oppression, and more. And you can find details about this organization at raceconsciousdialogues.org. May we be transformed by our giving, and may our gifts transform the world. Our reading today is called A Mark of Resistance by Adrienne Rich. Stone by stone I pile this cairn of my intention with the noon's weight on my back, exposed and vulnerable across the slanting fields which I love but cannot save from floods that are to come, can only fasten down with this work of my hands these painfully assembled stones in the shape of nothing that has ever existed before. A pile of stones, an assertion that this piece of country matters for large and simple reasons, a mark of resistance, a sign.
This is where the party ends. I can't stand here listening to you and your racist friend. I know politics bore you, but I feel like a hypocrite talking to you and your racist friend. It was the loveliest party that I ever attended. If anything was broken, I'm sure it could be mended. My head can't tolerate this bobbing and pretending. Listen to some bullet head and the madness that he's saying. This is where the party ends. I can't stand here listening to you and your racist friend. I know politics bore you, but I feel like a hypocrite talking to you and your racist friend. Out from the kitchen to the doorway to the hallway, your friend apologizes, he can see it my way. He let the contents of the bottle do the thinking. Can't shake the devil's hand and say you're only kidding. This is where the party ends. I can't stand here listening to you and your racist friend. I know politics bore you, but I feel like a hypocrite talking to you and your racist friend.
William McKinley is a role model for our current president. William McKinley, whose imperialist dreams inspired him to expand manifest destiny beyond the continental United States. I've been thinking lately a lot about William Howard Taft, a dedicated Unitarian lay leader. Taft had serious misgivings about the imperialism that McKinley wanted to see happen. Nevertheless, Taft deeply believed in the superiority of the Western intellectual tradition and the American form of governance. And so he acquiesced to McKinley's annexation of the Philippines as a way to share the gifts of the American people and governance. He served as the first civilian governor of the Philippines before going on to serve as the governor of Cuba, another one of McKinley's conquests, Secretary of War, President, and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. While things likely did not unfold in the Philippines as Taft hoped, helping the Philippines people turned out to be forcing the Philippines people to take on our values and governance. And an estimated 200 to 250,000 Philippine civilians were killed in the long war between our country and the Philippines. Well, that's the official estimate of the U.S. Office of the Historian. Filipina historian Lesvaminda Francisco says it was at least 1 million civilians killed. So I would say Taft was well-meaning, but wow, that caused a lot of harm. It feels fair to characterize his impact on the Philippines as terribly harmful, with at least 200,000 civilians dying, and a precedent for taking over another country in that part of the world that was used not so many years later by Japan in its imperial ambitions, which included taking the Philippines. In the end, Taft collaborated with enormous harm. I've also been thinking about Neville Chamberlain, who was raised in a non-theistic Unitarian family. As Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he fervently believed that the Munich Agreement of 1938 that he crafted with Hitler and Mussolini would prevent the calamity of a Second World War. The agreement blessed the German annexation of part of what is now the Czech Republic, and within a year, Chamberlain's belief that appeasing fascists would help humanity avoid World War was eviscerated when Germany invaded Poland. I've also been thinking about a visit in 2011 that I made to a museum in Budapest, Hungary, called the House of Terror. This was in the building that housed the secret police during the Nazi rule in Hungary, and then the Soviet-backed communist government after that. So the museum tour starts in a courtyard where there is a Soviet-era tank over a reflecting pool, and behind it, hundreds and hundreds on a huge wall of black and white photographs of Hungarians who died resisting Soviet control. You go up a dingy staircase to the top floor, and there's an exhibit about the Nazi time, the Nazi period of controlling Hungary. You go down a floor, and that floor is about the communist control of Hungary. And it's on that floor that I was greatly impacted by an exhibit that showed why so many Hungarians collaborated with the Soviets. It showed how collaborators and their families would get better jobs, have more prosperity, be able to afford a car, and there's a car in the middle of this floor, and better educational opportunities for their children. Not collaborating meant for many poverty, deprivation, subpar educational opportunities for children. The exhibit helped me understand why so many Hungarians said yes to collaborating. From that floor, you descend into the basement of the building, where there are horrible dungeon cells, interrogation rooms with torture equipment from the period, and rooms where executions took place. This was the end of the road for many who spoke up and acted against the Nazi and communist reigns of terror. From the basement, you go back up to the main floor. You go into some final rooms that have more of those black and white photographs of people, only this time they're photographs of Hungarian collaborators. Hundreds and hundreds of them, the tip of the iceberg. What must it be like to go there and see a photograph of a grandparent or great-grandparent or great-great-grandparent? And I should add about this that I visited this museum in 2011. I've read that the authoritarian leader of Hungary, Viktor Orbán, an inspirational figure for our president, for Tucker Carlson, for the Project 2025 people, got control of the museum. I suspect that the exhibits have been cleansed of inconvenient history for Orbán. Among our Unitarian kinfolk in neighboring Transylvania, there is a complicated legacy of collaboration with the Nazis and with the ruler Nicholas Ceausescu, and that legacy remains palpable. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in Romania, where Transylvania now is, collaborated with Ceausescu's regime, with the secret police. That included Unitarians, not surprisingly, including some Unitarian ministers. They were no different from the rest of the population. The House of Terror exhibit reminds me that some of the Unitarians who collaborated were concerned about their family. Some of the ministers who collaborated had hopes that that somehow would help their congregation, their church buildings survive. So I share all of this because it is important for us to understand this piece of our heritage as Unitarians and Universalists, that sometimes our ancestors acted in ways that were at odds with our values, our deepest values. People like Taft and Chamberlain and the Unitarian ministers who collaborated with Ceausescu's government. At the same time, it is also important to remember those spiritual ancestors who spoke up, who sided with love, sometimes at great cost. Ancestors like Francis David, the founder of Transylvanian Unitarianism, who refused to change his beliefs after a Unitarian ruler sympathetic to religious freedom died and was replaced by a Catholic ruler who wanted to restore Catholic hegemony. Francis David was betrayed by a Unitarian leader who thought that collaborating with the new king would help spare Unitarians. David was thrown in prison where he died. Ancestors like Norbert Čapek, founder of Czech Unitarianism, who refused to refrain from publicly criticizing the Nazis after being briefly jailed as a warning, his journey in life ended at Auschwitz. Ancestors like William Ellery Channing, arguably the founder of Unitarianism in this country, fired by the only church he ever served because of his outspoken rhetoric against slavery. Susan B. Anthony and Olympia Brown, who risked jail, public scorn, and so much else in the long fight for women's suffrage. Ancestors like James Reeb and Viola Liuzzo, both killed in March 1965 after responding to Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders' call to side with love by going to Alabama and joining the struggle for voting rights. Ancestors like Toribio Quimada, founder of Unitarian Universalism in the Philippines, assassinated in 1988 by a government-connected hit squad, and because of his brave witness for social justice. And Fulgence Ndagijimana, a Burundian who founded the Unitarian Church in Burundi in 2002, arrested at his church for his social justice work, imprisoned and exiled in 2015. So here we are, a long month into this new administration. Given the wide range of what has happened, from ignoring the rule of law and the constitutional order, to targeting immigrants and trans people for persecution, to threatening other nations' land, to musing about serving a third term or being a king, to purging and politicizing the leaders, the top leaders of our military, it doesn't feel overblown to consider these moments in our Unitarian and Universalist past. I shared about Taft and Chamberlain and Transylvanian ministers who collaborated with Ceausescu's secret police as a caution. These spiritual ancestors were not evil. A strong case can be made that they were trying their best, but they caused a great deal of harm. They abetted a great deal of harm, would be fair to say. So today I want to offer very briefly some ideas for avoiding collaborating that was promised in the sermon title. I do so with humility and with caution, because I could be wrong. Yet, we need to figure out what to do. So all that said, these ideas make sense to me. I've got 7 because I was inspired by the children's book. First, as Reverend Emily and I have said kind of almost weekly, we need to stay spiritually grounded. I don't know about you, but I'm saying this because I need the reminder to stay grounded, to do the spiritual practice that I feel like not doing when I get so down about how things are going. So this feels like a prerequisite. It feels like this place, this congregation, is a place that we can hold ourselves accountable to doing that. Second, be intentional about our words and actions, centering love as our guide. My household's been thinking a lot, like yours, Diana, about how we spend our money. We haven't been intentional enough about this. It takes time and energy and often more money, not just to avoid subsidizing active supporters of authoritarianism, but the corporations which have knuckled under the perceived threat. Third, we need, I think, to avoid either or thinking. This includes not going after potential allies whose views don't align with ours 100% of the time. It feels important to not embrace either or thinking. within this beloved community where there are indeed different perspectives and ideas. Fourth, we need to find a place, each of us, where we can dig into the work. None of us can do it alone. The authoritarian playbook is to try to overwhelm us, help each of us feel inadequate so that we sideline ourselves. Again, together, I think we can hold ourselves accountable to finding a spot and digging in and having some trust that other people are digging in to other spots. Fifth, be courageous. As a person with a lot of privilege, and I've said this quite a bit, this calls me, I feel like, to especially speak out and support those most vulnerable. I hope I'm able to do that. Sixth, as I said a few weeks ago, it's important to have our minds and hearts and bodies retain the idea that we can win, that defeating the forces of authoritarianism and oppression is something that we together can do. And seventh, I think we need to lean into our global heritage as Unitarian Universalists of dissent. So that roster of people I talked about, like Francis David and Norbert Chapek and Channing and Susan B. Anthony, and the list goes on, they were all dissenters. Many of our spiritual ancestors were dissenters. I think about Welsh Unitarians when being a Unitarian was outlawed, who had to go into the woods, into a secret chapel to have their services. I'm mindful, sure, of UU ancestors who collaborated with harm, but again, also mindful of those who spoke up. We can do it. Our faith helps us be able to do it. Centering on love, remembering the stories of ancestors who sided with love can help us. So that's 7. It's by no means exhaustive. I'm looking forward to next Sunday when we will hear a message from Unity Temple member Gabriela Zapata Alma, who will share about how our shared UU and our personal values can help us live with purpose and courage in a time such as this. So friends, I've been thinking a lot about a painting that Mark Bellatini, a colleague in UU ministry, first shared with me and others in the 1990s. The painting is called The Terminal, and it's by Jerome Whitkin. So the man pictured in this painting is wearing a yellow star. So this we know is the sign of that the Nazis forced Jews to wear that marked them for persecution. He has a suitcase. He's sitting in a boxcar. His look and the painting's double entendre, the terminal, indicate he and we, the viewer, knows what lies at the end of this train line. So when I first saw the terminal, I didn't notice that on the forefront, on the right side, there's a pair of hands. Those hands are on the boxcar door. In the next moment, those hands will close the door, and that terminal trip will begin. As Reverend Mark pointed out when he shared this with me and others, we don't know who those hands belong to. We can't see the body of that person, and there being so much in the forefront suggests the possibility that they could be our hands. Collaboration during the Holocaust and other Nazi atrocities came in many guises. Some actively participated in closing those train car doors. Others pretended that was obviously happening wasn't happening and looked away. Others knew what was happening, looked, but didn't have the courage to say or do anything. They knew the cost. So the question is, what will we do with our hands, with our voices, with our bodies in this time of challenge. Our closing song today, congregational song, is Sif Amandla, and this is an apartheid-era freedom song in our hymnal. None of us have ever sung it, but the words are amazing. It seems singable, so we're going to try it today. I'm going to share some words from Kimberly Debus about this piece, that this song and Kimberly's words give voice to our spirits, to soothe our nerves, to engage us, to motivate us, to bring us together. This song and the songs of civil rights and justice provide not just a soundtrack, but a unifying something for what freedom and justice look like. So Marty is going to help us sing this. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. It's 172 in the gray hymnal. Close with some of those words from the reading today, that image of a unique stone cairn. I can only fasten down with the work of my hands these painfully assembled stones in the shape of nothing that has ever existed before, a pile of stones, an assertion that this piece of country matters. I'll add that justice matters for large and simple reasons, a mark of resistance, a sign. Let's join together in the chalice extinguishing words. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
What good is love and peace on earth when it's exclusive? Where's the truth in the written word? When no one reads it, a new day dawning comes without warning. So don't blink twice, we live in troubled times. What part of history we learned? When it's repeated, some things we'll never overcome. If we don't seek it, the world stops turning, paradise burning. So don't look twice, we live in troubled times. We run for cover, like a skyscraper's falling down. Then I wander like a troubled mind. What good is love and peace on earth if it's an exclusive? Where's the truth in the written word? if no one reads it. A new day dawning comes without warning. So don't look twice, we live in troubled times. We live in troubled times. We live in troubled times.